Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, I want to take a few minutes to share my thoughts on this title that I'm really excited to have a chance to talk about. This is a title that people have been clamoring for some time to come into the Criterion collection. It felt like every time we got to that time of the month where it was getting close to Criterion announcing their upcoming slate, that I see people making comments on message boards throughout the internet asking about when is After Hours coming to the Criterion collection? Are they going to announce After Hours this month? Now, for myself, I had never seen After Hours. I had never seen this 1985 film by director Martin Scorsese before, so I didn't know what the fuss and hubbub was all about. But I did have a chance to see After Hours on this new 4K Ultra HD from the Criterion collection that has just come out. The wait is over. After Hours is in the Criterion collection on 4K Ultra HD. It is available now as of this week, as of the time I'm recording this video in July of 2023. It is spine 1185 in the collection, and it is a nice looking edition indeed. I really like the way this edition has turned out. I love the artwork on here, on the inside and on the outside. There's a nice insert, and people should be very happy. If you're a fan of this movie, I think you're going to be very happy with this edition from the Criterion collection. So I'll show you this insert. I'll just go ahead and show the insert. Very, very nice. There's an essay in here called No Exit from Sheila O'Malley, who's done a number of essays for Criterion. But I love the artwork that's on the inside. That's on the inside here. You have sort of a map of New York City, portion of New York City, specifically Soho, which is where this action of this film takes place, that particular area of Manhattan in New York City, south of Houston Street, hence the name Soho, south of Houston Street, which is where, the action takes place. And it is a dark comedy. It's like a black comedy film. It's a surreal film that takes you on this very surreal and trippy ride through the streets of New York City. You've got the main character here played by Griffin Dunne. He plays Paul Hackett. He plays an office worker, ordinary guy, normal guy who works in a firm as a word processor, doing a regular day-to-day job. And he's doing his job, gets off work one day, has a chance encounter with a young woman at a bar or some place near where he lives. This is played by Rosanna Arquette. She plays the character of Marcy, and she gives him his number. He calls her up later that evening, and that begins the worst night of his life. After hours after work, he is spending his entire night through this trippy ride through New York City, going through a series of misadventures with a lot of wild and interesting characters in a lot of strange, unpredictable situations. It is a black comedy. It's very surreal. It keeps you off balance. You have some wonderful cinematography in this film by cinematographer or DP Martin Balhus, and the way they shot this film in this very kinetic way with the camera work that keeps you a little bit off balance, keeps you guessing as you're moving from scene to scene, is part of the magic of this film, After Hours. I have to say, it did take me a little bit of time to get into this movie, to get adjusted to what was going on in this film. This is a very different kind of film from Martin Scorsese. I'll say that right up front. So if you're used to his films like Raging Bull or his mobster films, this film's a little bit different. And this film came out actually during a very interesting time in Martin Scorsese's career, which is talked about in the supplements. It's a pretty rough time for Martin Scorsese. He had done Raging Bull in 1980, which was a great film. He did The King of Comedy shortly thereafter, which also starred Robert De Niro. But then, that wasn't particularly a box office success. He had gained a lot of criticism as a result of just some different things going on. He was working on The Last Temptation of Christ, which had some problems. That ended up getting canceled around 1984. Of course, it would ultimately come out. But that was an opening for him to do this film called After Hours. Of course, Griffin Dunne and Amy Robinson, who were 2/3 of Triple Play Productions, which produced this film a few years earlier called Chilly Scenes of Winter, which Griffin Dunne also played a role in this film that starred John Hurd. John Hurd also appears as a bartender in After Hours. And this film was produced by Griffin Dunne, Amy Robinson, and another gentleman who made up Triple Play Productions. They produced Chilly Scenes of Winter. This is highly recommended, by the way, in the Criterion collection. This is the film by Joan Micklin Silver. I reviewed this recently on the channel. Definitely check that out. I have mentioned Raging Bull from Martin Scorsese from 1980. This is the 4K Ultra HD edition that I highly recommend. I did a review of this one on the channel last year when it came out. Folks, if you don't have this one, if you're a Martin Scorsese fan or Robert De Niro fan, definitely get Raging Bull on 4K Ultra HD, especially during the 50% off sale. So those are a couple of more Criterion collection recommendations, but there's connections because Triple Play Productions, 2/3 of it, Amy Robinson and Griffin Dunn, went on to make Double Play Productions, and they produced this film After Hours, and they brought on Martin Scorsese to direct it. Griffin Dunn stars in the main lead as Paul Hackett, the office worker, along with Rosanna Arquette, who plays the mysterious woman that he meets in the bar, Marcy. So really fascinating film. I'll read the back of the case. Desperate to escape his mind-numbing routine, uptown Manhattan office worker Paul Hackett, Griffin Dunn, ventures downtown for a hookup with a mystery woman, Rosanna Arquette. So begins the wildest night of his life as bizarre occurrences involving underground art punks, a distressed waitress, a crazed Mr. Softy truck driver, and a bagel and cream cheese paperweight. Bagel and cream cheese paperweight, yes. Pile up with anxiety-inducing relentlessness and thwart his attempts to get home. With this Kafkaesque cult classic, Martin Scorsese, abetted by Martin Bals's kinetic cinematography and scene-stealing supporting turns by Linda Fiorentino, Terry Garr, Catherine O'Hara, and John Hurd, directed a darkly comic tale of mistaken identity, turning the desolate night of 1980s, the desolate night world of 1980s Soho into a bohemian wonderland of surreal menace. Yeah, so this takes place in Soho, south of Houston Street in Manhattan, New York City, which is an interesting area of New York City, which is talked about in the supplements in terms of what was going on in that particular area and the history of Soho. But this is just a fascinating film. Of course, given the area that they were at the times of night that they were shooting this movie, which was overnight or during the nighttime, there wasn't a lot of activity on the streets in the areas that they were shooting at. So it made for some nice areas to shoot during the time that they were shooting this movie. Just a fascinating, surreal, trippy kind of film that's a very different film from Martin Scorsese's, other works that I think you'll appreciate. Of course, because this was done during a strange time of his career when he was going through a rough patch, Martin Scorsese decided to say, you know what, I'm going to go back to the roots of my filmmaking. When I did films like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, I'm going to go back to my roots as a filmmaker and produce something that's raw, present something that is just, raw and from the heart. And After Hours definitely delivers that. It is a fascinating, surreal, trippy, out there kind of film that I really enjoyed. Now, I watched this film twice. I had a chance to watch it on this television here. And then I also watched it on the 4K Ultra HD television I have upstairs on the main level. And just really nice presentation all the way around. I mean, I was very happy with how this film looks on 4K Ultra HD. Of course, you get a new 4K digital restoration. It's approved by the editor, Thelma Schoonmaker, the longtime collaborator of Martin Scorsese. She edited most of his films. She is a longtime collaborator of his and a big part of the success and the way that his films and just the success of his films. I mean, Thelma Schoonmaker deserves a ton of credit with her collaboration with Martin Scorsese. If you look on the inside here, it has About the Master, which I will read here. And it says, After Hours is presented in its original aspect ratio of 1.85 to 1. It's approved by editor Thelma Schoonmaker. This new digital master was created from the 35mm original camera negative, which was scanned in 4K resolution on a laser graphics director film scanner. So director Martin Scorsese's personal 35mm print was used for color reference. The original monaural soundtrack was remastered from the magnetic track. On the 4K Ultra HD disc, the film is presented in Dolby Vision HDR, and on the Blu-ray, it's presented in high definition SDR. So, very nice presentation. It looks great. This film is basically taking place at night in the dark, and those dark scenes I think are portrayed very well. You get nice definition and detail and contrast, and you're able to make out details even in the darker scenes. I was very happy with that. From an HDR standpoint, I thought the Dolby Vision added a little bit more punch to the colors and a little bit more vibrancy to the colors. And I was just very happy with this picture. Now, I don't own this film. I've never owned this film on physical media. To my understanding, it's never been on Blu-ray. I think it's only been on DVD. So I don't own it on DVD, but I was very happy with the 4K presentation of this film. It looked clean, lots of nice detail. The grain was very finely resolved. He didn't really, I'm not I don't have anything against grain. So, but this film was shot on film, 35 millimeter, and the restoration work from that 35 millimeter negative is just fantastic. It looks great. It's finely resolved. And I was very happy with this 4K Ultra HD image. I think it looked really, really nice across all the areas of picture quality in terms of detail, contrast, good definition, nice separation of objects in the foreground and the background, nice detail even in the darker scenes, nice dynamic range of the colors. I mean, when you look at all the areas of picture quality that you look for on a 4K disc, I think you're getting that. And I think that people who are a fan of this movie are going to be very happy with how After Hours looks on 4K Ultra HD. So I couldn't be more pleased with that. I think the sound on this uncompressed monaural soundtrack comes across very nicely. So from a presentation standpoint, After Hours on 4K Ultra HD from the Criterion Collection is a winner. It's a stunner of a disc that I'm very happy with. As far as the special features, this is where I think this edition shines for a couple of reasons. Even though it's not an overly stacked edition, what you get on here though is very, very nice. You get, for special features, you get this nice new conversation between director Martin Scorsese and writer Fran Lebowitz. Now, Fran Lebowitz is a writer. She's also appeared in a number of different films, but that's one of the features on this disc, on the Blu-ray disc, that you'll really want to watch, because this is Martin Scorsese sitting down with Fran Lebowitz, and they're just sharing experiences living in New York City, growing up in New York City, and the challenges living in certain areas of New York City, what his experience was making this film, really the tough time he was going through during the time that this film was made, and just some of the criticism he was facing, and just going through a tough time as a filmmaker, and his evolution as a filmmaker that began when he sort of remade himself making After Hours. You hear that from Martin Scorsese, and that is one of the most entertaining discussions I've heard on a disc in a long time, is Martin Scorsese and Fran Lebowitz just cutting up together, just having fun, talking about taxi drivers in New York City, talking about all aspects of life in New York City and his experiences making this film and other films that he's made. So definitely check out that conversation between him and Fran Lebowitz. You also have audio commentary on here featuring Scorsese, Schoonmaker, the editor, the director of photographer Michael Bauhaus, and Griffin Dunn and Amy Robinson. Actor, producer Griffin Dunn, and producer Amy Robinson. Very, very good commentary. You have a documentary on the film, on the making of the film, that has Dunn, Robinson, and Schoonmaker, which is very good. I highly recommend that as well. And then you have a new program on here on the look of the film that features the costume designer Rita Ryak and production designer Jeffrey Townsend. So that's also a great feature to look at. You have deleted scenes, a trailer, and of course on the inside you have this essay from Sheila O'Malley called No Exit that I highly recommend reading, that talks about Scorsese and the making of this particular film. So overall, folks, this is another winner from the Criterion Collection. It's a fantastic edition that has a very high recommendation from me. Again, it's a very different film from Martin Scorsese, but it's a film that I think you will definitely appreciate if you're a fan of his work and want to learn more about his filmography. So this comes highly recommended. Definitely check out After Hours, especially during the 50% off sale. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on After Hours, the new Criterion Collection 4K Ultra HD release of this 1985 film from Martin Scorsese. Let me know in the comments section below what you think about this film. Let me know what you think about this movie. And let me know what you think about other films from Martin Scorsese and what other titles are you looking to pick up in the Criterion collection during the 50% off sale. Let me know all that goodness in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.